Hey, and welcome to the Commit to Change, otherwise known as C2C podcast, that gives a voice to the people who may be considered a small fry in their industry, but are doing big things in their communities. And this is Miss Nikki, the Jane of all trades, but the master of living. I am committed to introducing local VIPs, vivaciously inspiring people to encourage you on your daily journey, as well as know what is possible happening around in your area. So we have a wonderful guest today. I am honored. I met this gentleman in probably one of the oddest places, but you'd be surprised of who you can meet in the customer service industry. I'm not going to name out where we met, but because they not paying me.
Exactly.
So,
there you go. That's a good thing. Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about our guest, and I'm going to turn the floor over to this gentleman. He was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. He was a teenage father. He was a high school dropout and a chronic underachiever. He was influenced and infected with the worst of living in the urban community. He indulged in a life that led towards destruction. The streets were seeking to destroy his life through sex, money, and crime, but the Savior saved his life. And he was led to the sanctuary at Cathedral International in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. And Bishop Donald Hilliard Jr. was his major influence in his life and became a father figure. From all of this gentleman became an author of a book called From the Streets to the Sanctuary, and the CEO of Transform Your Life EnterPrize with a Z, TYLEnterPrize. Oh, sorry, it's a Z pilot with a Z. That's what it was.
Yes.
EnterPrize with a Z. Yes. TYLEnterPrize is a company that specializes in total transformation in the areas of spiritual and business development. And his passion is to help young people understand that they have a purpose and must position themselves for their destiny. He encourages youth and adults to press past the pressure and passionately pursue their purpose. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to Mr. Rahiem Jamal Allen. Woo!
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the invitation. It's a wonderful thing to be able to connect with like minds. You know,
yes.
when we met at that famous place, you know, it was like a divine connection. And she said that she was you said that you were going to interview me, and I was like, yes, let's do it. And then a couple of years later, when I got the message the other day, I was ecstatic, and I was definitely appreciative of the opportunity, because I believe that we need to make sure that we share our experiences, because listen, the Bible says that nothing really is in a box. Everything is collective. I mean, that's not the exact quote, but I believe that we all know in part, so we need to be able to share in part so that we can impart to the people that are going to listen to this podcast.
Absolutely. So just a correction, it was only 1 year. Did it really seem that long?
It was 1 year.
Okay. Yes, we met last summer. Yes.
It was okay, because I no longer work there though.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So cool. All right. So please, Mr. Allen, or Author Allen, please tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, let us know a little bit more about you.
Okay. If you were to if I was to characterize myself, I would use one phrase, and that phrase would be a family man. You know, I'm a family man. I've been married for 10 years. You know, I have two sets of children. I have a 28-year-old, a 29-year-old, and a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Oh.
Growing up in Brick City, you know, I really had to deal with a lot of different perils. And one of those perils was having to grow up in a family where the masculine presence was absent. And it was something that I was definitely, you know, starving for all my entire life. So I really take pride in being a family man. And I believe that when you were to describe me, yes, I'm an author. Yes, I've spoken on television before. Yes, I've spoken on live events, but the thing that really defines me is my family. You know, Stephen Covey, he wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one thing that he said is that a lot of famous people, if you will, they're they're famous outwardly, but inwardly they are a wreck. And I believe that the reason why I make sure that I'm solid at home is because I can be notarized on the outward, but if I'm not celebrated at home, there's something wrong. But that's why I'm definitely a family man, and I love my family.
Awesome.
And I'm seeking to serve them with all that I have.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's so deep. Oh my goodness. Well, very good. All right, so let's jump right into it.
Okay.
So you talked about, or we brought up about that you had a pretty rough life growing up, but somewhere in there was a shift that happened, and you decided to dedicate your life into changing other people's lives. So tell me, what inspired you to make that commitment to change your life?
So really, it was like, you know, it was ironic because the thing that really inspired me to change really was an unfortunate event that happened, and I wrote about it in my book. And one thing that I always find myself in this position when I'm talking to females, I always apologize to them because of the way that I was living and things that I did willingly, and I just made a conscious effort that, you know what, I have to make a change. I had to really begin to start treating women in a different way. So the activating event, if you will, that happened when I had a physical altercation with my son's mother. And that's something that I'm not proud of. But that very moment, I decided that I was going to start going to church. And after we had that event that happened, I said, you know what? I got to change my life. And from that day, I did a 180-degree turn. And I haven't turned around since. So that right there really inspired me to make sure that I began to learn how to treat women in a better way, because I had a daughter and she was 5 years old at the time. And I knew that if I was going to continue down that path, they say that karma, some people call it karma, some people call it reaping, we call it sowing and reaping. And I didn't want to reap anything on her that was because of my actions. So I knew that I had to make a concerted effort to change. And I changed.
Wow. Okay.
At that moment.
So what did you feel was your biggest obstacle since you made that decision, and how did you overcome it?
I mean, my biggest obstacle of making a change is my memory. My memory was this, like, you know, because basically we are products of what we've been through. So a lot of times we remember and we think about it, and we just rehearse and go over those things that kind of really keep us locked into our past. So a lot of times the obstacle was forgetting everything that happened in the past, good or bad, because sometimes we can be slaves to what really we had fun doing, or we did things that we felt was the right thing at that moment, but it really wasn't the best thing for us. So so the thing that really was the major obstacle for me was to make sure that I forget what happened in the past and just start really looking towards my future, because I know that my destiny and my complete transformation, because I know that we're talking about change from a past tense, but I'm still changing even today. I believe that if I say that I'm not changing now, or I'm not committed to change, as a radio show, as the podcast is entitled Committed to Change, when you make a commitment, it's not a one-time commitment. You got to keep on committing every single day. So the things that I'll make sure that I'm doing to continue my process of changing is to make sure that I forget any and everything that happened in the past. And that's a big time obstacle, because a lot of times we say that what we did, it was a good feeling at times. Besides, like, you know, the altercations, but other things that we were doing in our lives, it was definitely satisfying something inside of us.
Right.
So right. Committed to making that full transformation. And I am in a battle of my life, because I'm still changing. You know,
right.
Yes. And I did some things, yes. But I'm still changing every day.
Right. And people don't realize that the one thing that is constant is change.
Yes, it
So
is.
even if you don't want to change, change is happening all
Yes, it
around
is.
you. And as far as your past, it's not so much about forgetting, it's about accepting what was and then being able to leave it where it is and
Yes.
moving forward, because we flow like the waters. As long as you're flowing with the waters of life, you know that you realize, okay, you can't go back downstream, you only can move upstream, and unless you're going to be going against the current, and that's when you have turmoil. So keep going upstream.
Yes,
Rahiem.
yes, upstream. Yes. Yes, that's important right there.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes,
So
it is.
who would you say was your biggest supporter, or is your biggest supporter?
I would say my mother is my biggest supporter.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say my mother is my biggest supporter, because she's been there through thick and thin. You know, I was developed in her. I came out of her, and she saw me when I was born. She saw me at my lowest. She saw me at my highest, if you will. And at my lowest and my highest, her love stayed consistent. And just to be able to really understand that I had someone that would love me at my worst, is somebody that I believe that really supported me the best, if you will. Because sometimes your mother is really the only person that can really love you at your worst.
Wow. Yes.
And just, accept you really, really unconditionally. And I know it's a genetic thing, but I can say that she has been and is my biggest supporter. We always say that if I wanted to rob a bank, she'll be the driver. But we're not into that. But she supports me through thick and thin, and I love her to life for that.
That is fantastic.
Definitely.
So one of the biggest things about you is that you are diving back into your community for this change. So I know we talked about the book, and I would love a little bit more information on the book if you could tell our audience a little bit more about the book. But in that, I want to ask you, how exactly do you feel like you are adding value to the community?
See, what I'm doing now, I have, and I want to continue to speak to people that are in prison, because I believe that when you have a captive audience, if you will, they have time to think and they have time to block out distractions. I go to youth houses, I go to group homes, and I speak to group homes, and I speak to the young people at my church. One thing that you have, as I said, people that are in prison and people that are in group homes. Another place that you have a captive audience is the church. Because parents make their children come to church, and I believe that it's something that's really wise to be able to see young people and to get them to really begin to make better decisions at an early age. Because one thing that I always say to the people I speak to in my community, or if I'm just because a lot of times our places of employment is our community as well, because we see them all the time. I tell them that whatever you do in your 20s, your 30s, whatever you do in your 20s is going to impact your 30s. And whatever you do in your 30s is going to impact your 40s. So every time I get a chance to speak to someone, I tell them, listen, make better decisions, because your decisions, you may feel like they're just arbitrary right now, but eventually you will look back and you will say, what decisions have I made that brought me into this position?
Yep.
That's something that I believe that is critically important. And one thing and that's why I said that I'm in the process of changing, because one thing that I do know, and a lot of people, they look at me when I say this, but there's a scripture that says that money answers all things, right? It's from Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 18. But the caveat is the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. But one thing that I want to do is to make sure that I amass wealth so that I can go into communities and not have the burden of going to work every day. I want to be able to get a truck. I mean, this is future. I'm not doing it now, but that's a desire that I want to do, to collaborate with people like yourself, collaborate with other people that are doing big things in the community, and we wrap a truck with all of our logos on, and we go out and we just hit every community that we find ourselves in, from city to city. So that's something that I believe that I want to do in the future to really impact my community. big
Yes.
time, and help individuals when they come home from prison. Because a lot of times when people go to prison because of a bad decision
Mm-hmm.
and come home, they have to go back to prison because they don't have any other resources.
Right.
So one thing that I really desire to do is to really become unbelievably wealthy, not just to provide for my family, but to help individuals out as much as I can. You know, there's another scripture that says that if somebody come to you for help and you say, you know what, I'm going to pray for them, I'm going to pray for you, but you don't give them something to eat first, you're not really doing anything.
Mm.
So that's my desire, and that's what I want to do to impact my community.
Wow.
But right now, I just try to help in as many people as I can in my community now, currently.
Wow. So what kind of things are you doing in the community? I know you said you're doing the prison outreach. Are there any other things that people can kind of connect with you on in the community, or
I
is
mean,
that just for future?
right now, everything is in the future because I am in a lot of transition as far as like really connecting fully with my community, because I'm kind of like shifting communities as far as my church attendance. So it means
Okay.
I have to reconnect on different levels. So that's something that I'm really looking to do as well.
Okay. Now, what tips or advice would you give to someone who is sitting on the fence of their field of dreams?
I mean, what I would say is just take the first step. You know, on my website, it says the journey is, it's not, I think it's, I forget, I can't even pronounce his name, but it's a Chinese, an Asian individual that actually said that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. You know, I believe that if you have a dream, you have to make sure that you take the first step. And then once you take that first step, it's going to give you the momentum because now you can take the next step. So I believe that if you're on the fence of your dreams, you have to step out and you have to just make sure, and you have to believe that everything that you dreamed about, the only way it's going to come to pass is if you step out. But if you stay on the fence, listen, you're going to die eventually. But question is going to be asked, you know what? Les Brown said this. I listened to him religiously, and he said that what if your dreams come to you on your deathbed, and they said, I came to you and you did not allow me to come out of you. Now I have to die with you. And none of us want to die with our dreams. So if you dreamed it, bring it to pass. Take the first step, no matter what you have to do. Because to be real, even though I'm a public speaker and I am a minister, I wrote books, but I had a fear of public speaking because of the articulation of speech, comparing yourself with other people. So you don't have to be great to start, but in order to be great, you have to start. So I would say if you're on the fence, you got to get off that fence and just take the first step. It could be baby steps. It could be something that you can just do and say, you know what, I'm going to do it. And if I fail, I fail, but I'm going to start again. Listen, Michael Jordan, he got cut off his varsity basketball team. You know what I mean? Everybody's not like LeBron James, who went all the way through, who had many successes. But even LeBron James didn't become a champion for a couple of years. But he still was playing. He didn't stop playing. So I would say, listen, don't sit on the fence. Step out and believe and know that in order to be great, you have to start. But you're not going to start out great. So I would say move forward. And just believe that you can achieve your dream.
Hey, believe and you can achieve. That's right. Yes. So can you please tell us a little bit about your book?
Okay. My book is From the Streets to the Sanctuary. Growing up in Brick City, it's also known as the Concrete Jungle. And in the concrete jungle, instead of wrestling with lions, tigers, and bears, we had to wrestle with sex, money, and murder. And I was playing Russian roulette with my body, and I was getting involved in the drug game big time, and it produced money in my life, but I knew that it wasn't a way that I was going to be able to really sustain my life and sustain my children's lives. So I, just as I said, that event happened, and then I gave my life to God, and when I gave my life to God, I had to learn a new way of living, a new way of believing, a new way of thinking, and everything about my life just totally changed. But just to backtrack for a moment, growing up in the inner city, my mother, she raised 3 children by herself. And as I said, I was influenced and infected by the ills of the urban community. And basically, a lot of times our schools, even though we go to school, but we don't really have like really powerful, I'm going to say, curriculums to help sustain the mind of a Black man. Or a Black child, if you will. So I just got involved in the drug dealers, and we just started doing whatever I wanted to do, or whatever I felt like this was the way to live. So then when I started going to church, like I said, my whole life changed. And I always say that it was like a train going like 100 miles per hour. And you know how when you pull those levers, how the train kind of derails, and you have the lead car was going, which was my mind. And then I had all these things that I was doing in my life. And when I stopped doing those things, everything rushed to my brain. Rushed to my brain. It was like I didn't know how to sort all these feelings. I didn't know how to sort all my everything that was going on in my life, the losses, the loss of friends, the loss of relationships. Everything was just lost. So it was really a rough time. So I wrote about it in my book. I had to battle depression. I went through depression, and a lot of times people from the street, they may say, they may look strong, they may look hard, they may look like powerful, but on the inside they're dealing with pain. And the pain that I was dealing with is the loss of my father. The pain I was dealing with was our economic struggles. The pain that I was dealing with was really just going through unfortunate events that happened. And I wrote about it in my book of being molested when I was young. You know what I mean? So I wrote about all of that in my book. And when people read it, they were like, yo, man, you know what I mean? And when I was doing the editing process, she asked me, she said, do you want to leave that in? I was like, yeah, because it's my story. So then when I went to church, it taught me how to deal with those things, and to really know that in the sanctuary there is peace. In the sanctuary, I met my wife. In the sanctuary, I was able to have the family that I always wanted, living under one roof. In the sanctuary, I was able to have an opportunity to be on this radio show, the sanctuary, yeah, because if I was living the way I was living before, I wouldn't have had this opportunity. So I know that the sanctuary was a place where I can find peace, where I can find, comfort, and I can find really what I was born to do. And that was to help people and not hurt people. So that's what my book is all about. It's about it's about fathers abdicating their responsibilities, mothers paying more attention to their children, because even at an early age, I was exposed to things that I shouldn't have been exposed to, not because of my mother's fault, was because she had to work. And we were left in the hands of latchkey kids. And everybody know about what happens in latchkey kids' houses. So I wrote it. So I write about all of that in my book. And I believe that it's just a story that I believe that a lot of people can learn from. Big time.
Wow.
There's
okay.
It's a lot.
Well.
It's a lot, yes.
Yes. Well, are you ready for our lightning round?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask you 5 questions.
Okay.
And short and sweet. Here we go.
Okay.
What initially held you back from making your commitment to change?
My memory.
Okay.
You want it to be one word or elaborate?
You can elaborate.
Okay. As I said, my memory, just remembering those times when I was living reckless, and it was attempting me to pull me back to those reckless behavior.
Okay. Now, what is the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice that I ever received was to take my time. Take my time and make sure that you enjoy the roses. A lot of times we speed and we're trying to get to a destination, but as a result, we're missing out on what we can see, what we can experience, and what we can explore. A lot of times we want to get to that place as soon as possible, but if we don't take the time to learn what we have to learn, and commit to what we have to commit to, we'll miss it. And I
Yes.
believe that we cannot miss what we need to see. So that was the best advice that I received.
Yes. Billy Ocean's mother said the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Take your time, young man. And Mama used to say,
don't you rush to get up.
Yep.
Mama used to say, yeah. Okay. Yes.
All right. So share with the audience a personal habit that contributes to your success.
Okay. A personal habit is, as I said, I take baby steps. So meaning that I take baby steps, like as far as reading a book, if you will, right? If I have like I'm reading a book by Brendan Burchard right now, and it's called The Habits of, I think it's called The Habits of Highly Effective People. And basically, if I'm reading a book, I break it up in small pieces. So every time I read just 5 pages, minimum of 5 pages. So if I read 5 pages, I'm just okay. I finished my 5 pages and on to the next. And that's how I'm able to read as many books as I've read.
Okay. Well, the next question was, what book would you recommend to our audience and why?
Self-Talk by David Stoop. Self-Talk by David Stoop is unbelievable, because when I was in the throes of depression, I read that book in I probably read it in like two sittings, because it really gripped me, because it talked about an activating event, right? And it was talking about how a lot of times our brain and our minds are so powerful that there's an activating event that happens, and then if we don't catch it, it'll take us down a road that we really shouldn't go to. So it's said that we talk to ourselves more than we think we don't. But if we begin to understand that we can't say nothing negative about ourselves, if a situation, like if I call you and you don't answer the phone, it's not because you don't like me. It's not because you don't have a desire to have a conversation with me. It's because you may be busy. But a lot of times, if we have a negative self-talk, we'll tell ourselves that, you know what, that person don't want to talk to me. That person don't really care about me. And then before you know it, you go down a rabbit hole, and then you're just lost.
Yes.
So I love that book. That book blessed me like you wouldn't believe.
I'm going to have to get that book.
Yeah, David Stoop, Self-Talk.
I'm on it. And the other book you said Brenda Burchard?
Brendan Burchard, yes.
Brendan
Burchard, yes. He's like on YouTube. He's a motivational speaker, but he speaks on high performance.
Brendan
Burchard.
Oh, you know what? I looked him up before.
Yeah, see? He's awesome. Practical.
He came right up.
Yeah, he's practical. He's awesome.
And which book was it that you sent me see?
His newest book, Habits.
Let me see. High Performance Habits.
Yeah, High Performance Habits. Yes.
Cool. All right.
Right now.
All right. I'm definitely going to get on that one too.
Yes, that's awesome.
All right. Last question, because I just broke up the lightning. If you found out that you had 1 hour left to live and was given the opportunity to share one final message, what would it be?
One final message, I would say believe. And I know that sounds real simple, but I would just say, listen, whatever you dreamed about that's positive, I want you to believe it. I don't want you to think that it was a figment of your imagination, because I believe that, and this sounds cliche, but it's not cliche. If you believe it, whatever you believe in any situation, any circumstance, whatever you believe about yourself, whatever you believe about your future, whatever you believe about your community, whatever you believe about your finances, whatever you believe about anything, that you will receive that thing. So I would say believe in all the good things about yourself. Believe in all the people that you may look up to, that you can achieve not just what they achieve, but even more. You can be an original, and you have to make sure that you believe in yourself, because you only have one life to live, and you have to believe that you can live your best life. And you have to believe it. You have to believe that you have to believe it. And I'm speaking to you. You have to believe that this podcast is going to reach millions. And the reason why you have to believe it is because then you will continue the process when you only get one listener, Or if you don't get no listeners, you got to keep on believing. And then the more you believe, this podcast will go out. I believe that the people that have the most success in life, that they have to believe.
Absolutely.
I want you to believe. And I'm speaking to myself as well.
Absolutely.
You have to believe.
Yes.
So if I had 1 hour to live, I would say, listen, believe that you can reach the highest success, that you can do whatever you desire to do. Believe.
Yes, yes. And you actually, that was kind of my last question, but you know what? I want to touch base into something that I feel like I'm going to have to add to my line of questioning, because a lot of people talk about being successful or reaching success. But in my personal opinion, I feel like every person's level of success is different. Yes. And it is unfortunate that some people measure themselves by other people's measurement of success. Yeah. So my question to you is, how do you measure your success?
Peace, because I believe that we need to have something that we can shoot for. So not really comparing. I believe that there's nothing wrong with having somebody that you look up to, but you can't compare your gifts to their gifts. You can't compare your level of success to their level of success. So I believe that if I have peace within myself and within my success, that then I believe that, you know what, I'm successful. But if I don't have peace, and if there's an agitation, not from me comparing myself to a Brendan Bashar, a Eric Thomas, or a Mel Robbins, you know what I mean? I can't compare myself to those people, but if I don't have the peace, if I'm not able to provide, if I'm not able to like really protect my family economically, because as I said, a lot of times, and it raises eyebrows every time I say it, but money answers all things. So if you don't have money, a lot of questions are going to arise. And if you don't have the finances to answer those questions, like when you gonna pay your rent, when you gonna pay your car note, can you go on a vacation? So I believe that the peace really tells me, you know what, you have reached a level of success. And I believe that peace is the determining factor for me.
Okay. Cool. And I heard you mention Mel Robbins.
Yes.
Miss 5 second rule.
5 second rule. I love her.
Yes. I discovered her a couple months ago, and it is what helped make me get out of the hole I was in, because this podcast should have got started last year. So we ain't gonna talk about that. It started when it was supposed to. Hey.
Exactly. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And you got to keep going. And you got to launch.
Absolutely.
You have to launch, because Mel Robbins helped me actually leave that place.
Really?
Because it was like I was listening to her because I was there, and it was a solid job. I wasn't gonna lose my job, because I always, whatever I do the best of my ability. And I just said, you know what? I listened to her one morning, and I just said, you know what? I have to begin to step out. So I stepped out, and I actually did something that was unbelievably like crazy. I went down to Florida, started a whole new career, and I went to Florida, right? And I studied. I passed the test, and then I had to climb a roof, right? I never climbed a roof in my life. So if I didn't get on that roof and inspect the roof, I would have had to come home with no job. And I said, you know what? I gotta count. And one thing that she said, and I'm not really promoting her, but she's great. I even actually wrote her, and she wrote me back too. But she said, you got to count down. And once you count down, you got to move on it. So I said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and jumped on the roof. And then the second time I did it, I said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and jumped on the roof. And before you know it, I was climbing roofs. And now that's my career right now. I don't climb roofs anymore, but it gave me the ability to start that career.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, so you got to step out.
Yes, I believe it.
Anybody that's listening, you have to step out.
Yes. So, but nothing against Mel. I thought maybe I had something to do with it. I mean, I was telling you that you got to follow your dreams, but I guess Miss Nikki didn't do nothing. I see how it is. Whatever.
Oh yeah. You know what? I remember that conversation too. You did.
That's how it got started, because you were like, "Wow, you live in Germany?" And then we started talking, and then your coworker too was like, "Oh," and she was talking, and it was a whole conversation. I just came to I came to get something.
Yes, exactly.
And then
Exactly. But we're shifting, but I believe this can make your podcast really more personable as well. And I was following you heavy on social media though.
were you?
Yes. I was seeing you in the competitions, and it was dynamic to see how strong you are. I was like, wow, she picked up that big. I think it was like a
It was
rock.
like a boulder, yeah.
A boulder, yeah.
When I did the Highland Games, yeah.
Yes, that was awesome. I was following you, rooting you on. Man.
Thank you.
And now you're doing the fit challenge. I like that. Level up.
Yeah, I created that.
That's good.
So this was so that's why I mentioned about Mel Robbins, is because it really it got me back on my path. Like and as I started doing that, because when you start working again along with the current, things start coming to you, and that's exactly what happened when I started using that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 mentality, or it helped me get out of what was going on up here, because moving into a whole other country and culture, and I mean, it really, my identity was on attack.
Understood.
And so it was like very difficult to just climb out of that hole, amongst other things that were going on.
Understood.
So that was kind of like that moment, that pivotal moment for me, that started helping me climb. The story where there was talking about, like, there was a donkey in a hole, and they were putting the dirt, and it had to step up. That's exactly how it's been. Like, I've been stepping up. And a couple of weeks ago, I went away to Italy to get certified in yoga. Okay. And it was like, that in itself was a moment for me that was just like, it helped me get in touch with a lot of things about myself that I had lost. That's awesome. I was just I was on fire from there. And I said, okay, I'm going back to the States. I need to keep that fire going. And this is why I was like, I'm going to contact people. We're going to do some interviews, continue doing the interviews. So that way I can keep going. And actually that, when I recorded, I had recorded it before. And I don't know, I didn't care for it. I was like, no, I'm going to change it up. And I did it on the hype after an interview. I was so excited after the interview. That's good. I was like, I'm going to re-record this.
That's excellent. I love it. I love it for real.
So you got to share with people, because I want them to do it.
Okay, I will.
Please, I just want people, like, because my thing is, like, have fun when you're getting in shape. It doesn't have to be so stressful, because I think that's what causes people to fall off.
That's
just do things you enjoy, things you love, and if you want to challenge yourself. So that's a part of my Gyao challenge. I started a workout program years ago, and that's what I was writing on there, is that because of depression and stuff, it caused me to, like, everything went under the rug. So I mean, you're talking about almost 7 years ago that I did that. And it was just basically a challenge for people in general, just to get up and do something in life, and of course fitness as well. But it was GYAU, which is get your poop up. So those who don't curse, you say gyao, and those who do will say the other thing. But hey, the A is in the Bible too. It's a donkey, so.
It is. Yeah. I'm real, definitely.
All right, so listen. Go ahead. Say what you're gonna say.
I mean, one thing that I believe in collaborations.
Yes.
This is a collaboration, and I believe that nothing happens by chance. And if there's anything that I can do that can plug you into other networks, give you some interviewees that are interesting, that are really making a lot of noise in the community, definitely I want to be a resource for you. And Absolutely. One person in particular, my wife just came up with a concept called, with a company called Journey to Health. And basically she's really moving towards people who live in a plant-based diet, to really help out in that arena. And she just had her first event a couple of weeks ago, and she had a yoga instructor there, and it was awesome.
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
y'all can really collaborate big time.
send her my way. You know, I am open.
Okay.
I'm definitely open if, you know, because I want to promote other people, and
Exactly.
I want, as long as they're working in it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I'm about promoting people and putting it out there so people know what's going around in their own communities.
Exactly.
You know, not everybody knows what's out there. So definitely, please connect her with me.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
I will, definitely.
Yeah, very cool. Definitely. All right, so please tell our audience where they can find out more about you, how they can get in contact with you.
Okay. You can go to my website, www.lifetransformed.info. That's where you can find out the most information about me. And also you can go on my social media feeds, Allen72. That's my personal Instagram page. My business Instagram page is TYLEnterPrize. That's my business page. But where you can find out about my family, you can see pictures of my children and how we connect really strongly. You can reach me there. And also I have a flagship program called the 340-120 Principle. It's a goal attainment program. We're doing 3 things a day for 40 days. We'll give you the ability to achieve any dream that you set out to achieve. Be it writing a book, losing weight. Not saying you're going to lose all the weight that you can in 120 days, but if you do something consistently every single day for 40 days, it will definitely come to pass.
Absolutely. Well, that is a wrap. Oh, by the way, I am going to put his links and everything. I'll put those websites and links that he just mentioned below the video or the podcast link. So you'll have all the information as well if you didn't catch it while he was speaking. I do want to say thank you again so much, Mr. Author Minister Rahiem Allen.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for being a VIP guest on the C2C podcast. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We hope you feel inspired to keep moving forward towards your goals and stick with or make a commitment to change your life. Please make sure to check out the links provided by our guests and share today's podcast and information with anyone you feel may benefit from it. And remember, in order to get to the top of the steps, you have to take the first step.
That's good.
Just don't step on anyone on the way because you just might trip. This is Miss Nikki. Till next time. Thank you. We say bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody. Take care. Take care.